I'll call the meeting to order. It's 15:01. The meeting is duly constituted with quorum present. And the first order of business is approval of the agenda of the Council Strategy Committee meeting of April 4th, 2017. May I have a motion? Second, thank you. Changes? Good to go? All in favour? Opposed? That carries. Public participation?
I'm not.
You're not a public? Yeah, okay, good. Minutes of the previous meeting of March 7th. Was it that long ago? I had absolutely nothing. Looks perfect to me, to the extent that I read every sentence.
Well, considering you or I put forward all the recommendations, which was 2/3 of the text,
Yeah.
so, yeah,
Yeah.
fine, I'm good.
Just a question on one. Page 472, under item H. I don't want to be a wordsmith or anything, but I'm kind of wondering if the intent on this could be misinterpreted. If within a strata unit, the bylaws of the strata corporation must permit STRs and the strata council must provide authorization of the TUP application. I understand where you're going at it, but would somebody think that we're compelling the strata corporation to do something?
You and me, we think alike. I thought the same thing when I read it. So for the draft policy, if you read the applicable provision, it doesn't read like that. It's
Okay.
clear that we're not compelling anybody
Right.
to do something.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, good catch. Okay, but you got it already?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? So, motion to approve those minutes. Thanks, and a second. And all in favour? Opposed? That carries. And business arising from the minutes, we'll move on to unfinished business. I believe there is none, as far as I know. You've lost your bet, Ron. And reports, there being none, we'll move to new business, starting with the most comprehensive call services report I've ever had the privilege to read, starting on page 7 of many.
7 of many. I will assume that it's been read and just gloss over it real quickly. Essentially what we've done is we've compared standard public works operations based on organizations like the BCWWA, the American Public Works Association, the Canadian Public Works Association, all of whom provide manuals on best practices. And then compared that with what we are doing on an annual basis, flowing through from the work that my colleague Nikki did in creating a work plan. What this identifies is areas of deficiencies, primarily with respect to the most significant of which are the roads and bridges.
Yeah.
The mandatory requirement for fire hydrants aren't being met. Trails are a liability in staff's opinion for the municipality. The rest are all minor and can be worked around, but those are the critical areas, the key areas that are deficient. As the report says, there's no right or wrong ratio when it comes to public works. There's no numbers out there that say, populations of 10,000, X number of public works employees, and there's no study or documentation out there that talks about, well, if you have 2 treatment plants, you need X number of people. Basically, there's nothing documented. It's different in every community. And what Public Works tries to do is do as much of the best practice with the staff levels they have. So this is basically a snapshot of where we are today and what it would take to get to the gold star.
A gold star being a sort of industry accepted grade, or what you believe residents expect? How formal is the gold star?
The gold star is what industry recommends, right,
Yeah.
to maintain infrastructure. So you can maintain it to a certain level. A lower level will get you a lesser life. What's that quantified to? There's no numbers out there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, it's basically up to the staff to determine what effect their maintenance is having on the infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is pretty sobering, isn't it? Not that I think any of this comes as a surprise to us. We've been, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're sort of at the point now where we're not quite putting out fires. We are actually doing some medium range planning, like for example the safety walkways in the wastewater treatment plant, or pre-doing an engineering study of the drainage down Bayview.
Yeah, we're taking the right steps.
We're
that's
catching
for
up.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. So what is it you want us to do? I mean, the ask is for council to make some decisions, but I didn't see what the choices were. You
Delay until 2018,
did
Yeah.
what?
Essentially what,
full-time employee.
yeah.
Well,
ultimately.
so I was going to ask you specifically about that because I did see that was an ask, adding a lease truck and adding an operator. My understanding is we've actually had people off for a good time,
Absolutely, yeah.
and we didn't replace those lost hours.
No, we could have replaced them with a temporary staff.
With a temp, I mean.
Temporary staff member, but trying to get a temporary staff, having a temporary staff member without the proper certification doesn't really provide us with any benefit.
Yeah.
It just means two people driving around in the truck, right? Hiring a new temporary staff member means, again, two people driving around in the truck. There's a learning curve. Part of the balance was, okay, well, you know, we have Will, we have Garth, we have enough skilled staff to do what's going on. There really isn't or wasn't a lot of work that needed, it's not like we had a lot of weeding to do, we just focused on core maintenance. If we had menial labor tasks, then it would have benefited to have somebody. Basically, we've been one man short since the summer, and we've been maintaining. Right.
Yeah, I mean, some of this we probably want to be discussing in close under Section D, but is there's not sufficient menial labor, meaning trash can clean out and whatever, for one full-time person, such as there is?
No, that the dedicated staff that we need are skilled, trained staff with certification. The areas that we're lacking in, the fire hydrants, you can't hire a student to come do that. You can't hire just menial labor. They have to be certified in accordance with the BCWW or BC Drinking Water Quality Act. So.
And now I think we're within our rights to say we're going to be down one such person.
We are down one such person, correct? Yeah. We have drafted a posting. We're ready to post. And we'll be asking for that certification again.
Even so, we're still down the full-time employee since the summer.
No, he is back and back at work. So we have that person. We're just down Will now.
I'm not sure Ron doesn't know what's going on with Will.
Oh, he got a new job. Sorry.
Oh.
Yeah. Superintendent of Public Works at UBC Endowment Lands.
What a coup.
Yeah.
What a loss.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, but when you can climb 4 stairs in a ladder, I mean, that's a
Yeah.
good, well, good job for that,
Yeah.
okay.
Good for him, bad for us.
Yeah, I mean, so it's actually with Metro, really.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, good job. All right.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Will, he really is a lot, and he's the reason I ran for this job, because he took the original infrastructure committee around on a rainy Saturday, and it was his exhortations that made me realize, hang on a second, something has to be done here. He was the guy that persuaded me. Showed us the tank, showed us the flume, showed us the intake, showed us everything. And I said, wow, this
Yeah.
guy needs to be listened to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
He
that
will
was-
be. UBC.
Well, and Isby, I mean, that was 6
Yeah.
7 years ago now, so
Yeah.
that was a long time ago. But okay, so the ask is,
Currently, that staff be given direction to initiate some of the changes. We need to look at the account structure to be able to better track our costs, and basically put in a budget ask in September for a full-time person plus truck.
no, you went to a lot of trouble putting this document together. What's the audience of this document? Is it your people? Is it council? Is it the community?
The audience is council and staff. Staff had a huge hand in preparing this. We had numerous discussions while this was being developed, talking about the things that we're not doing. And there is a certain level of lack of knowledge when it comes to the broad range of public works. Public works operators are unique. They're not, you don't find them everywhere. In most municipalities, people are dedicated to a certain area. For example, in West Van, you'll have a sewer utility worker who shall not cross the line and touch water. Same with water. You have blacktop people who can't touch a weed eater to cut grass. Whereas here, we expect staff to do everything from blacktop to water to you name it. So when you're looking at other municipalities and you look at that worker out there, he goes to school for almost 2-3 years of full-time school to get certification, just for waterworks. But here we have a generalist that's required to do that same level of education for water, but also for sewer, also for blacktop, also for horticulture, right?
And the certifications are mandatory,
Yeah.
provincially mandated. We don't get a chance to waive them.
No, so for the Drinking Water Protection Act requires that we have at least one operator for our system classed as a level 2 operator, which we have, and at least, and everybody else working below him needs to be one step below that, or can be the same.
Yeah, well, I think we knew that.
On the sewer side, same thing. Right now, we do not have an operator that's certified for sewer anymore.
So what?
That's in the posting.
And until then, I mean, if there's an issue, do we have to get a contractor in?
Well, now,
Certified contractor?
we'll advise. No, we do have staff that can handle the situation, but, and there are provisions in there that you know, you realize that these operators will come and go and you'll be down-staffed or short-staffed.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure you know this, but, you know, there's a lot of people coming out of the oil field that will have the skills, not the certifications, but, you know, gang hands and roustabouts, yard hands that are looking for work. Who knows what their comp expectations are. Yeah, okay, well, I mean, it seems to me that this was probably a good exercise for you to sort of quantify the issues and actually make sure that you hadn't left anything out.
It was
It's a lot of work.
It was excellent for staff because it does open their eyes to the broad range of what they're supposed to do versus the impression that they had. So it's educating.
So now, on the core services, are we really missing anything right now?
Well, the mandatory is the fire hydrants.
Yeah, the flushing.
The maintenance of the fire hydrants. You're supposed to strip them down at least once a year. And
There's nothing the fire department can do,
No.
because it belongs to us.
It's not just that it belongs to us, but you have to be certified through the act.
I think these are some of the regulations he's been referring to that have changed. When I was working, the fire crews went out and did them all, but we can't do it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, and we can't just hire somebody off the street as a laborer to do it. They have to be certified.
Okay, so what's the action here?
I think the recommendations are contained on page 11 of 72 of your package.
Thank you, Peter.
I don't see the word recommendation anywhere.
Well, the options are laid out 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, okay.
And I think the recommendation is that you pursue all 4, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, sorry, I just followed the report template.
Okay, well, so now just walk us through those. The general ledger is, I suppose, just so that you can track things better. I think we all
Correct.
understand that.
Yeah.
What's point 2 about?
So point 2 is boulevard maintenance. Staff are trimming and maintaining vegetation on private boulevards.
Private boulevards, no such thing. Private lands adjacent
Public boulevards adjacent to a property.
to. So what do you want to happen?
It's up to council, but that generally and typically belongs to the owner adjacent to the boulevard. So if your lawn stretches out to the street, you don't just maintain your property line and stop. You go right out to the end.
Up to and including clearing the sidewalk, and there's all kinds of provisions for this in other communities.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
do that here. We dedicate approximately 400 hours to private resident boulevard maintenance.
On the public boulevard, but the extension of private property.
Correct.
Yeah. And is it things like lawns,
Yeah.
bushes,
Lawns, bushes,
tree limbs?
Hedges.
tree limbs, only if they're encroaching out onto the roadway. Do I believe that residents should maintain tree limbs above a canopy, for example, that would impede a fire truck or a garbage truck? We don't want a resident on a limb with a saw.
Out on a limb,
Yeah,
especially on the wrong side of the saw. Yeah.
absolutely. So these are just bushes encroaching out into the roadway.
Well, I mean, it seems to me that we could institute a policy, a formal policy,
Bylaw. We need another bylaw.
another bylaw. Yes,
Yeah.
So,
just what I'm looking for.
so yeah, other communities to do what you need to do, to define where the responsibilities lie and to mandate what shall or shall not be done. We need to set that out in a bylaw. So Nye's referred me to one or two, and it's something we need to look at closely and determine where do we draw those lines in Lions Bay, so that we don't have Public Works doing things that ought to be handled by residents.
Well, ought to be, I don't know if there's any ought, it's a matter of public policy. I know that I see when Public Works has managed to annoy residents, they say, okay, well, I'll stop clearing the culvert, or okay, I'll stop trimming the bushes. I think people know that today it's not their responsibility. So making it their responsibility is going to be a political decision, right? It's not going to go down well in some respects.
Well, I think the majority of people in the village take that responsibility on their own, and there's some obviously don't bother. But it's always been that you take care of the property in front of your place. I mean, it's their own best interest. But I don't think there is anything written down in it, to my knowledge.
Well, I mean, I'm hearing that you're doing 400 hours a year. So
Historical service has been provided by Public Works in Lions Bay.
give us some specific example without naming names.
It may be that the residents aren't aware that that property belongs to them. So whether it's the frontage or the side yards or the rear yards that front onto a street, any corner or any side of that property adjacent to the public lands is the owner's responsibility to maintain in most municipalities. So it may just be an education campaign.
There have been instances over the past year that I'm aware of where residents have complained about hedges not being trimmed that were previously trimmed by other public works staff, and why hasn't it been done?
Yeah, back in the old days. Yeah.
So
Good old days.
yeah, there is some of that out there, and I'm sure there's also lots of people that take it upon themselves to keep things looking trim and proper and whatnot, even though it's beyond their property line. So.
Any characteristic of the people who expect the work to be done by the municipality? I mean, are they older, been here forever, or they newer?
I don't really know if I could make that assessment. I think really though what we're talking about is a good degree of education about what are the issues, how is it normally handled in other municipalities, what are the costs of us doing it. What does that mean? You know, if we were to actually continue to devote that time, what would that cost taxpayers in terms of dollars? If we were to make sure that we had enough staff to do it, those kinds of things, and really and then at the end of the day, it's council's decision as to how you're going to allocate the scarce resources that we do have, and things like this. You know, council, I think, is always looking for ways in which financial allocation of resources is done the most efficient way possible, and you know, when you can allocate to residents that okay, how about residents handle this much? And then beyond that point, or for these types of things, Public Works should have that responsibility. And you've gotta draw that line, and we can help you find that line and provide you with options as to where that line should be drawn. But ultimately, I think we need to head down that path.
Okay, so I think we understand what point 2 is, right? So we will ask staff to review and present us options.
Yeah, the impetus behind point 2 in the course service level review is that there are 400 hours that are better directed towards bridge cleaning and ditch maintenance, etc., that needs to be done, right?
Yeah. Fred, you had something to say?
Well, I agree with Peter's point there. I think it is an education thing, and I would suggest that if we can piggyback it onto another bylaw, and we need a whole new one, fine. But I thought this report should go on the website, and anybody who wonders why they're not getting the service they would like, it clearly explains how much work is being done, and that would make a stronger argument to say, look, if you want to help out, clean up your own mess.
Yeah, we're not going to have an operator 1 trimming your bushes. That's silly. We can't afford that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's just the problem is that there's an expectation out there that we pay these huge taxes, and the least you can do is
I can only
maintain
just-
village property.
Yeah, I can only add that in West Van, we had the same arguments.
Mm.
Yeah, and that's what led to the bylaw.
But I also point out our daughter's place in Burnaby. Burnaby doesn't touch anything on the boulevard. It's all the homeowner's responsibility.
But have you been to Burnaby? Doesn't look very good.
Well, some places look very good.
And there's weeds growing everywhere. It's
Yeah.
shocking sometimes. And if people don't care, they don't care. Now what are you supposed to do? Go and do it in front of your neighbour? Maybe you are. I don't know.
Well, actually, they do. On their street, you can see that during the snow there was stretches there of nicely shoveled sidewalk, and then nothing, and a weed patch typically there. Then the neighbors all get together. Next thing you know, the whole blooming thing's done. People care about their community and they pitch in.
Yeah. Well, a lot of that is education. They don't understand. The memo comes around in English, and that's not something that goes in the round file. Okay, so what's the name of this kind of bylaw?
West Van's is called just Boulevard bylaw.
maintenance, yeah, boulevard maintenance, boulevard bylaw.
You can't put it as an adjunct addendum to the driveway boulevard crossing amendment bylaw amendment. Of 2017.
I think you had one too many bylaws in there.
I pushed it. I almost had you. Well, I mean, if we can amalgamate it into the good neighbor, it's not, obviously. I also understand you want bite-size, easily understandable bylaws, but there's going to be a backlash about all these bylaws coming out of this room. But anyway, okay.
Well, you'll notice when we do make the new website live, there will be less bylaws, and they'll be easier to discern.
Meaning
what
only
you're
the
looking for.
current ones, only the enforced ones.
Essentially.
I think people need to have. I mean, if they're not going to, the secret bylaws? No, of course not. So people need a resource to find all our bylaws.
There are bylaws which haven't technically been repealed, but which essentially ceased to do what they were intended to do 20 years ago. They were single-purpose bylaws. We don't really need to have them
No,
still on
if
the
it's that
website.
kind, yeah.
So,
And I'm saving your blushes. We don't need to put the financial plan bylaw on there because that's just a formality. Said.
God, no. I think that's the one people go to first.
I think they want to
I
know what
do.
the rules are. Yeah, exactly. Okay, walk us through what 3 is about.
3 is about trail maintenance within village lands. All of the trails that are within village lands, and quite a few that are out of village lands, are signed with Lions-based signs, with the coat of arms. Yet we don't do any maintenance on the trails at all. We don't do any inspection on the trails. We rely on dedicated volunteers who are dwindling in numbers. And it's a concern that people are using these trails without any sort of knowledge on our part as to the condition that they're being exposed to.
Well, I use them every day, and I can tell you, and it's getting worse, and the lack of maintenance is apparent. Stairs filling in, lots of rebar sticking out, 2 inches now. The dog walked around with a bloody foot the whole of yesterday around the house until it was noticed. Took me 2 hours to clean dried blood everywhere because he stood on one of these spikes. So your point is well taken. I'm concerned about trails a lot, as you know, because it's all over. Every hiking website mentions the Lions Bay Loop. And I remember taking Peter on the trails. We met, how many parties? 24 coming the other way. Not one of which was local. Because Lions Bay's trails have been discovered. It's a nice little place, there's parking down at the school, everybody wants to come for a little hike on a nice day, even on a non-nice day. So that's something, unfortunately I think there you're going to see an increase if we're going to start maintaining and signage and all that stuff. So yeah, okay, so you're going to present us options? Is that the idea?
Yes, ideally.
Yeah. There's a basic level of risk management which we've discussed with one of the volunteers, and so we're going to set about creating a framework for some accountability, some basic level of inspection and of a reporting protocol, and then determining from there how that gets addressed. Much like any complaints-based system for public assets, it's essentially that. But we need to do a better job of establishing clear lines of communication and authority and parameters for doing things, and where we get involved with public works and where we rely on others to do that work, and how we cover those others. Where it's setting up a MIA policy for volunteers to do certain things, but that requires that they be accountable to the municipality. So it's a case of setting that up.
And I'm sure I don't need to tell you that one of the resistances was accountability. They'll do it when it pleases them and suits them, but nobody wanted to fill in forms and report and worry about their liability insurance and all that stuff. And that's one of the reasons why volunteers are dwindling. They wanted to volunteer, not to become.
Right. So we understand their perspective, and that they will not take the step of forming a society and obtaining their own coverage and doing those kinds of things. So we need to establish a basic level that at least provides us with some coverage and provides them with some coverage. And so our intent is to create that kind of a framework, and we'll bring it to council for your review, and hopefully we can move forward with that fairly soon.
Yeah. Trails concern me. Just as a reminder, and perhaps council didn't, I copied you all on it. I'd asked Metro if they could provide us some sort of trail counting devices. Somewhat for this reason, what I really want to try and understand is how many people actually use the trails on a daily, hourly basis, to try and understand, what the seasonality is, what we're a jumping off point for 3 serious hikes: the Bluffs hike, the Lions, and Unnecessary Mountain. They certainly come through Lions Bay. The trails start in Lions Bay, and so is that something that we're liable for? Okay, yeah, okay.
And the last would be the additional full-time equivalent plus truck, as Councillor McLaughlin mentioned, for the 2018 budget.
In addition, so that's over and above what we have today.
Over and above what we have today.
Okay, well, I'm sure I don't need to remind my colleagues what the immediate village reaction will be. But yeah, I don't think anybody around this table needs much convincing.
could use that as a supporting document then.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I keep trying to tell people things have changed since the good old days. The downloading that's taken place is almost laughable. It's just, I enumerate some examples every year just to point out to people, These things all take extra people. Okay, thanks. So at this stage, Peter, do you need direction to pursue these options, or is it a receiving the report?
Discussion.
Sorry?
I have some discussion points.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, because this is no real formality.
Sorry, I know. And to your last point, getting to the number. And so now I said 83-ish, so that goes the base plus the 15% to fully load an employee. So the 83 counts for overtime and on-call and the whole enchilada.
Correct.
Okay, so we're all good there. That is the number then.
Yeah.
Well, to Carl's point, I hate playing a card game knowing I'm going to lose. And this is a losing hand to me, and I'm not trying to be chest pounding here. But regardless of our current, and I'll hopefully say temporary personnel problem, it bothers me a lot that, to Carl's point, if our employees, just to, not to pick on them, but just to play with numbers, if they work for half of what we paid them, then we could solve our problem and double our workforce, which would be just perfect. But that ain't gonna happen. And there's no alternative, no contract out, no piecemealing or anything like that. And
Of what we prepared to pay them, that we budgeted to pay them.
yes,
Yeah.
so, and we can't additionally incentivize our unionized crew and make them go the extra mile every morning beyond the extra mile they already go. And I also worry that, and I know this, it's not my position to know this, but I'm sensing that given the extremely long hours our management exclusives work, and I know having come through the winter season, which was very demanding on our staff, I mean, their burnout and stress is certainly on the horizon here, and actually we're very lucky that we haven't encountered any of these problems. So I guess where I'm going with this is that I'm not happy with this situation, and I actually table why are we waiting a year knowing that we've got this big hole sitting right here. And I mean, the grass cutting and weed crap like that, I mean, it's 17 grand a year, and yeah, that's a big number, but it's 400 hours, $45 an average hour for the 83 grand kind of thing. This is not a world burner by any means here. It's kind of it shows the desperate financial cosmetics we're trying to do here. So I throw that one out completely. Don't want to hear about that. And so I wouldn't go to the bylaw thing. It's just,
Yeah, for the money.
for the money, it's just, no. And I think we're trying to come up with a big solution using pennies here. So that's not it. So I guess I would table a discussion here, given what Carl's just said. People can be upset here, but I mean, our people are just maxed out. And you can tell me that, no, that's not the case, but I'm going to suggest you're fibbing.
Yeah, they are maxed out. The level of service and the dedication that I see here would absolutely floor my counterparts in West Van.
No doubt.
Text messages flying around back and forth at 10, 11 o'clock at night between union workers, talking about the next day, talking about things to do.
Yeah.
Volunteering to come to an open house about infrastructure.
Showing people around,
Absolutely.
proudly showing bus stop bells. We are.
We've just
More
had
than lucky.
another staff volunteer to take the Girl Guides up the mountain so they can earn their water badge in May, right? So, yeah, I'm extremely lucky to have the staff that I do have here. They're amazing.
Well, I think where Ron's going with this is
Why wait?
why wait?
So, I mean, let me twist here. Take a
go
rest.
for it.
Yeah, and this isn't about benefiting. As Haley would would say after I'd left the room that, when I first came onto council a long time ago, I was no different than the other newbies. It was slash, cut everything to the bone, and all the rest of that. And we have a unique situation where our administrative personnel, our fire department, all the lines of business are really clicking along here. The council decision is to give people tools to work. And by saying, we're planning to help you in a year from now. I wouldn't go very big in my household, I gotta tell you that one. And so, I guess it's a big number, and I guess this leads to the next discussion on the next report we see. But we went out of our way to ensure that the administrative staff had some wiggle room, and I wouldn't suggest that there is wiggle room within all of the budgets. And I suppose if council was of a mean to, and I'm just pitching this, Pam, as spaghetti to the wall, that if we looked at our little plan here and maybe cobbled something together last minute or something like this, we'd get you you're gonna have to go find a person, so I'm gonna guess that's gonna take a couple of months anyhow. You're already looking, so to get 2 joules is going to be particularly hard. So, here, what month are we in? April. So by the time, theoretically, you would be fully staffed again, and it'd be summer. Okay, well, suddenly the number's not so big anymore. Work with me a little bit here. There, I spit it out.
I think that the sentiment is good and it's well appreciated. However, there is preliminary work that we need to do. It's not just about getting staff on, it's about preparing a work plan. There are activities that we're not doing that we've never done. Hydrants, only Alberto knows how to tear down a hydrant. We need to have training, staff brought in to train people. There's a fair bit of work that we need to do ahead of time before we just pull the trigger and hire somebody on board. And that's why we put the recommendation in the way we did.
Yeah, well, I'm also just, it's a note of caution. We're looking at, in round numbers, 90 grand operating cost. That doesn't come out of reserves. That comes out of tax. That's, again, in round numbers, a 9% tax increase to pay for that on current tax base. Now, if everything goes well, tax base will start increasing very, very slowly. Do you anticipate any kind of time savings coming out of the reconfiguration of the water system? Fewer tanks, better, more accessible PRVs, better instrumentation?
The savings will be in contracted savings. For example, tank cleaning is $35,000 every other year. That number will reduce. Being glass-lined tanks, you're not going to have as much biofilm forming on them. They'll be easy to flush out. So those services were provided by contracted services. Things like hydrant maintenance need to be done by internal staff, by water operators. We need to build a stock of spare parts for hydrants. I don't even know how many ports we have, how many O-ring gaskets, how many plugs. So there's prep work that needs to go in ahead of that. If we want to start doing some of these tasks, we do need to prepare. It's not like we could hire somebody tomorrow, but in reality, I don't think we'd be getting the bang for our buck that we could if the plans were in place.
Who's doing the work to get the plans in place?
That would be myself and Garth.
And so the other things that you're doing are to the side.
No,
there's only so many hours in the day here.
Absolutely.
So, doesn't that kind of blow your theory of the extra body not being helpful?
The extra body isn't going to be at a level that, if I could hire a level 2 operator, maybe I could get somebody with that initiative or gumption to start taking some of this stuff on. Right now, I feel my hands are full with hiring one person with the right qualifications to meet the sewer requirements and the water requirements. Hit and miss, right? You're flipping a coin when you're hiring somebody.
Yeah, we have so little wiggle room, so little elasticity in our organization that everybody counts. As well as I do, there's going to be a significant number of people in the village who will say that we have too many public works guys. They drive around in trucks together, they all jump out of the trucks, and it takes 3 people to lift a manhole cover. You've heard You've heard this.
How many public works employees does it take to dig a hole? Absolutely, yeah, you know.
So the point is, you know, we also have a, I guess where I'm going with this is, we have a communications piece around it as well.
Yeah,
But we're just talking about timing now.
yeah.
I'm looking for, do we have consensus around the table that we actually need this person, whether it's in the next month, 6 months, or a year?
Well, I would ask from my previous experience, how many videos have you had from the public of public works employees sleeping in their trucks?
Yeah, exactly.
How many videos have you had? I mean, we had people videoing being around the world and just counting the number of trucks that would come into the coffee shop all day long, right? I don't see that here. I see these guys busting a gut nonstop.
So do I.
So, you know, the argument to those detractors is that, you know, these guys are specialized in everything. They're very valuable, key staff, and the hours of service, or the hours that they're providing, is in the report and in the previous manager's report. You know what they're spending their time on based on those reports,
Yeah.
and where they're not spending their time.
Yeah.
One of the things Nye and I discussed in terms of the timing, because we did give it a lot of thought and we did respect what Councillor McLaughlin had previously said about why don't we do it now, was getting the core service review out. And because there is a change, if we do determine through consent with council that we are going to do more work on trails, it's getting that all set up. And by putting it in the 5-year plan, we could actually hire someone for January 1st. So it wouldn't be a case of getting the budget adopted, then having to wait until the summer, and then knowing exactly what we want that person to do, because there are things that we're introducing here, as Nye has said, that we haven't done in the past. So it's a matter of training and getting everything, all our ducks in a row, that we can hit the ground running at January 1st. And then it also helps the communication piece as well. We can say, why do you need someone else? Well, because we've done this core service review and we've identified these key areas we haven't done before, and we need more staff to do that. So I think, all in all, I think, you know, it's not like we're saying we're going to be doing this a year from now.
Yeah.
By putting it in the 5-year plan, we could get the posting out in November, we could be ready to hire for January 1st, and also have an opportunity to communicate it to the public that we're giving you more bang for your buck with this extra person.
Yeah, now, in terms of, you know, if we start talking about trail maintenance and other landscaping, is that contractable? Can we put that onto a contractor who has their own truck, provides turnkey service with an SLA?
Yeah, my experience with that in West Van is that the cost for that emergent need is through the roof. You'll have a contractor that's got several contracts. There's an issue that comes up that needs attention. They won't be able to provide that service, right?
Such as what? Give us an example.
Well, if you have a tree come down, if you have a bridge washout, there's loads of scenarios. The other problem with that is that you don't have the technical know-how to do that. We're lucky; we've got some very, very skilled volunteers. There are a lot of companies out there that would come in at low bid, but wouldn't have the ability, for example, to repair that pedestrian bridge that Mr. Dudley and his group kindly did. So there's liability involved in that as well.
You're gonna quantify the cost of this for the next kick of this? Because I mean, just the trail piece, I mean, I think we all know the story here. I mean, it's a big mystery number with a question mark on it out there.
Yeah.
And it could be smallish, which I don't think it will be.
Well, I think
Could be biggish, which I think it will be.
I think that depends on the level of back and forth we get with the trails maintenance volunteers, the trailblazers, sorry. And if it's strictly inspection and critical deficiencies like a washout, we can manage those. It depends on, you know, how we choose to manage the liability.
Well, I think that's the far bigger picture, and I've been saying this for some time now. We really need that recommendation first, because as soon as we start touching the trail officially, we're liable. And right now, we do not.
Well,
Except once we chopped up a tree that had fallen down.
we have trails all over the place within our boundaries that we might not touch, but they have our names on them. They have our
coat of arms.
Coat of arms.
Yeah, well,
on
that
them.
was not put up with official sanction, so I mean, you know, if
Well,
push came to
then
shove.
shall we just take them all down?
Well, it's
No,
not,
they're
a,
private
not,
signs,
it's
huh?
not a bad idea,
They're
quite
not
frankly.
private signs.
Well, I mean, I have also been asking for, I think, well on, since the date I started, for signage that says use at your own risk.
I don't
But it's
know.
just signage, right?
Yeah, I don't know that you'll get away from the liability with
No,
use
no.
at your own risk.
That's certainly what our insurer said to do.
There is online evidence that we did install portions of the trail, that we did some maintenance on the trail. The bridges were paid for through the municipality.
No, by Kiewit. Kiewit donated them and put them up.
Kiewit donated them and put them. I thought they came through the municipality. It
I
may
don't,
have been
I don't
Kiewit
know how,
that
what the
did it,
paperwork was, but
okay,
yeah.
We paid for them.
we paid
We then received a fund to reinvest, but we
Yeah.
paid for them.
So all of
Yeah, that's
that
probably not
just
smart.
adds
Yep.
more.
Well, so I mean, I'm really looking forward to getting this trail situation nailed down. And we have two kinds of trails: the purely in-village ones,
Mhm.
which are, quite frankly, part of our OCP for walkability and carbon targets and all that stuff, and then the ones that the wider public use more, the jumping off points for the big trails.
I think you hit it on the head. We know these trails are interconnectivity between neighborhoods, between points of access, public points of access. To turn a blind eye and say they're not ours, I don't think would fly.
I don't think that's going to fly ultimately. Whether we have a leg to stand on now, I don't know. As you know, my dream is to have some sort of development up at Brunswick and a walking trail to the school so that kids can ride their bikes and the moms can push their strollers type of thing along a trail, not along the road. So it's high time.
In any event, the thing I'd like to sort of bring us back to and sort of add as another thought here is that we're not just talking about hiring another person just to do trails. There's a lot more to it than that.
I was looking
Yeah,
to
we
see if
have-
we could rededicate our level 1 and 2 operators to level 1 and 2 operator stuff and get a contractor, a less skilled contractor, turnkey, with the service level agreement. But I'm hearing you say,
There's pitfalls to that. I've been through a lot of that in West Van. There was a time where we decided to contract out all of our road building. The ultimate cost to build these roads in West Van has gone up through the roof, way more than what it costs internal staff to do. So there's this impression out there that having unionized staff is going to cost you an arm and a leg. Where in reality is, people are out there to make a buck, and any chance they can, they will add extra costs and ding you.
Okay, so I think on this, if I'm getting my the word back here, you appreciate the offer, but it's, unless somebody just stands up and says, no, we need it now, you're prepared to wait until September with the view of hiring on January the 1st.
Yes, please.
In a planned walk to the hiring, and in the meantime, you'll replace the person that we're down one, and get your eye out for the second one. So my recommendation would be this, and I'll keep quiet on, and I'm fine with the rest of the recommendation, would be, and I'm looking at Pam's financial plan, this happens to fall entirely into my own personal and self-satisfying desire that we accelerate the budget presentation, because I believe I speak on behalf of council from their perspective, not in the preparation of the work and not in any of the ground up kind of stuff that staff does an excellent job in, but certainly if we saw a preliminary budget in October that encompassed a bunch of this and a bunch of the stuff that staff is working towards already, we could probably push through a bunch of this stuff pretty quickly so that you can have your hire right away.
But it's in the 2018 budget, so we don't need to do that. Like, I put it into the 2018 15-year in the 5-year plan. So
It's
that
in the
gives us
5-year plan. Oh,
It's in the
that's-
That's-
5 years,
yeah.
so you're,
So that's our authority.
okay, so
to
it's
do.
in the 5-year plan, we just haven't paid for it yet.
But I'm showing in the 5-year plan
Okay.
that we can pay for it.
And what would be the thinking to pay for it, given that it's an
Well,
ongoing
you've
operating
already
cost?
answered that. It's only one
Well-
place it comes
So
from.
we're going to have to cut costs elsewhere to pay for this person.
Well, all you're snipping hair around ears on this one. I mean, where it's not gonna come from work, it's not gonna come from fire. Which of our
Well,
hardworking
don't
staff are we going?
Don't necessarily assume that.
Well,
Fire is 400,000 a year, when all said and done. To put out one house fire every 2 years, and do maybe a dozen in village mesas. So what would be your thinking?
Well, when we get to the 5-year plan, you can show that we've been able to absorb it with a 5% tax increase and inflationary increases.
We really are going for the blue ribbon of the highest taxed municipality in BC. I won't be satisfied until we reach
well,
that.
if this came forward 4 months ago, I mean, with a 5%, add another 9, it would have been 13 to balance our budget. So I'm not, Pam, I know you're good with numbers. I'm not buying the 5% in 2018 that it's all going to work out.
We can look at it when we go to
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, we're going to have to cut 2% from somewhere else to pay for that
Yeah,
person.
so, all right.
Okay,
So-
but so, I mean,
Okay, so my views are on the table on this one. And I'm not chest pounding. I think we need the personnel, and you know, it's why set yourself up. Sorry, I would not because have it on my shoulders. Council set our people up for failure here, or burnout, or somebody is so exhausted that they walk in a hole and bad things happen.
so the time off that we did have, was that a work-related injury?
Yes.
It was. So that right there tells you something. Somebody just pushed it too hard. Yeah. Yeah. Now, what about inside people? Are we looking at another headcount there?
Not at this time, no.
Not for the foreseeable,
No, I don't have it in the 5-year plan.
but is that realistic?
At this time, I think it is.
Communications, website, just the continual downloading that we see.
Mhm. I mean, the website was kind of an elephant being a snake swallowing an elephant. I mean, we've had a lot of work this year, but once it's up and running, it'll just
Yeah,
be
but I mean,
maintenance.
in order to make it a useful living facility, you need somebody actually doing it. I mean, just garbage alone, the new requirement. In theory, we should also have a transfer station or a drop facility, whatever they're called. Have you been to the one at Costco, Burnaby's? Have you seen it?
Which is that, Carl?
Burnaby's recycling and non-recyclables facility. It's huge. It's I don't know, sort of a football field size. It's organized. You drive up. There's a guy greeting you. There's another guy showing you what to do. Here's where you put your batteries. Here's where you put your CFLs. Here's where you put your soft plastics. Well, we need that. Otherwise, we put all that stuff in the trash, and our loads are going to start getting rejected in 5 years' time. Bulbs in the trash will cause the whole load to be rejected. So in theory, we have to provide that. Well, that's a person right there. So point being,
I wouldn't necessarily agree that's a person on an operational basis. It's a project, it's a capital project to set something up, but it's not going to be a whole person. I was just thinking that some of the things, in terms of setting up that kind of a facility, which is mostly just soft plastics and e-waste and so forth, I mean, maybe there's an opportunity, and it's also an educational piece, maybe there's an opportunity to partner with the school district. Do something like that at the school. I don't know. It just occurred to me, so I just thrown it out.
and it's
there.
also a level of, do we provide the facility for people to recycle their paint? Almost, little lines big. Sorry, you have to take your paint somewhere else. Well, you know what happens to paint. It goes in the trash. Gets poured into the trash can.
I think people can bring their paint to the paint store they bought it at, can't they? So I don't think that's too onerous.
Well, I didn't buy 25 of the 30 cans of paint sitting in my house right now. Somebody else bought them. But
There's several depots even in North
no,
Vancouver. that you
but
can
that's
take
so.
it to.
I'm more than willing to load it all up and take it over, which I did the other day. But many people don't. Anyway, the point is, there's going to be increasing costs. So, but I'm hearing you say you don't think we need an inside person.
Not at this point. I mean, when I'm doing the budget next year, I may change my mind.
Yeah, the point is,
Well, you're filled up with theoretical contractors and specialists, so
Exactly.
that's a sub for an FTE or a part-time. So,
we can only raise taxes so far and no further, and then we're out. We can't just keep going to the well.
okay,
Okay. That's not to say that I
So-
don't have thoughts in that regard.
after Labor Day, we're going to see this in one form or another.
Okay, so any further discussion on that? So what's the protocol now? We send this to council with a recommendation?
Yeah, I mean, if you're so inclined, something along the lines of that it be recommended to council that staff pursue all 4 of the options set out on page 5 of the core services report.
Okay, let's take that as a motion then. All right.
Can I add a fifth? I really would like to see this thing posted on the website, because anyone who complains about the service level just should be redirected to see what staff are doing.
I think Carl should put a paragraph in there.
I certainly will.
Mayor's thing. You could take a note of, I mean, it's such a
I
quality.
need a place to point somebody at. I mean, the problem is, the old website is sort of, half dead. Not to put you on the spot, when are we talking new website?
Before the end of the month?
Oh, really?
Okay.
Okay, well, that's good.
As in
I have noticed that we've changed month and it's early April now, so I know you're saying the
Say
month.
what month?
I was thinking, wow, that's only a week, but then I realized, damn it, it's April. Okay, so, yeah. And not only that, it must also be discoverable. It must be a pull. I don't want to have to push it to people. They must be able to find it.
Yeah, anytime they phone up to complain directly,
Yeah.
get on the list.
Once the complaints are awfully isolated. I mean, the crew did just such a wonderful marketing job by being in the trucks all winter.
Yeah, now's the time.
They're
Timing
high
wise.
profile, I mean, and the fact that we've got an injured person and somebody who is so highly desired, I mean, there's a good story here. And, it's, again, a little on our staff. I mean, the management exclusions are just killing themselves here.
Well, that's a good point. Like, we keep giving the fire department so much credit for training up members that are scooped up by other departments and they're well trained and everything. This is what's happened with Will, I would say, to the same degree.
So, perhaps you can not talk about desal plants and...
I'm going to keep talking about diesel plants until the cows come home.
I don't even salt my food.
Well, I mean, I don't need to remind you that we had unsolicited half a dozen letters over the winter thanking staff for the stalwart snow clearing effort. We also had a few on the other side, which we shot down in flames
Par
quite
for the
easily.
course.
Yeah. Okay, so let's take that as the motion as Peter stated it. Can I have a second on that one?
With the ad that Councillor Bain?
With the ad that the report gets published to the website immediately and then easily discoverable in the...
I had the word prominently.
Even better. So good at this. Silver-tongued. So let's consider that a second, and all in favour, opposed, that carries. Whew, it's quite a sobering business running a small underfunded municipality. In case anybody hadn't noticed. So let's move on. Pam?
Draft 2017-2021 5-year financial plan. I brought this to the CSC because I thought it would be an opportunity for you to see the 2 schedules that will form part of the 5-year financial plan bylaw, which will be coming to the next meeting, April 18th, for first and second reading. I've just kind of highlighted at a high level some of the assumptions I've made. A 5% tax increase, 5% water user rate increase, just 2% sewer. Labor expense is 1.75 to 2%, and non-labor 1.5 to 2.5. As we've discussed, I've also included 1 public works person and a vehicle lease truck for 2018 and on. And I have also taken So it's kind of the key piece. I've taken all of the capital, the 9.2 million that we were proposed in our loan authorization bylaw. I've just done my best guess at, with NI's help, of just sort of estimating when we may be doing the projects, because obviously it's dependent on grant funding, but I've matched it up with grants and loans totaling 3 million, so it has kind of a net zero impact on taxation, but I have put it through the plan. Kind of on page 67 of 72, this will be the schedule, like I say, that goes into the bylaw. Just at a high level, there's a couple of new things. We're showing the proceeds from the borrowing. So again, I've matched this borrowing up with when we anticipate applying for grants and doing the rest of the capital. So that totals $3 million over the 5 years. The land sales, I've just put in the Brunswick Beach based on what the appraised value is. And then the 6 million was for, again, just our best guess at this time of the value of the public works land that we would be selling. And then down at the very bottom, transfers to from reserves. The 2.6 million being transferred to reserves is basically the net of the Brunswick Beach sale and purchase. And in 2018, the 4.9 is the net of the 6 million land sale. I've estimated 1 million for the cost of the new public works building, less $100,000 that we would draw from reserves to do a footbridge at Brunswick Beach. So this is
A draw from the restricted reserves,
Yes.
the
Yes.
ocean access
yes,
reserve.
that is something we could draw from that.
Yeah.
And just with those assumptions, we're showing a transfer to reserves for 2019, 2020, and 2021. So we can start building up reserves. In answer to the question, how we could afford the public works, well, one of the things that isn't in the 2018 budget is 60,000 for a planner. I have kept money in for a planner, but not at 60,000. I believe I reduced it to about 25,000. And then we also are showing a slight transfer from surplus of 57,000, just to balance that year, kind of the first year of trying to absorb a public works person. So this is, like I say, an estimate of the 2018 to 21. We will be doing a 2018 actual budget. This is more of a guideline, but I did want to put the public works person in to show that we could actually afford it, and it would give us the authority to spend that money early in the year before we had actually finalized the 2018 budget, if we chose. Then the other schedule I have is Schedule B, and it's a little different from last year. We now have a requirement of the charter to talk about our funding sources, kind of what they call objectives and policies, and how we do a property tax distribution, objectives and policies. So I just wanted council to have a chance to read this prior to going to first and second reading. I've really just tried to articulate which was what sort of our policies were for funding as directed by council. We're looking for other sources of funding other than property taxation, which is grants. And then for the property tax distribution, we had previously been advised by council that we would maximize the rate for utilities, which we've done, so I've actually put that as a policy. And when I was looking at this, I've sort of discovered, or I was reminded that we have a very high rate for recreation/nonprofit. And when I looked at other municipalities, about 52% of the municipalities in British Columbia have their it's actually recreation nonprofit rate set the same as their residential ratio. And the other municipalities that have a larger amount tend to be municipalities that have a lot of private recreation, like Whistler, places that have ski resorts. So they treat them like businesses, so that's why they charge more. And we actually have the second highest rate for our recreation in British Columbia.
Who
I'm
is
not
the
sure
recreation
why.
parcel?
And that, we have one private, I could say, the marina.
That's classed.
It's classed as, a portion of it's classed as recreation. So that's actually what I wanted to talk about, because, I mean, it is staff's recommendation that we set the recreation nonprofit ratio to the residential and set that as a policy. And we had, that was going to be my recommendation before the assessments, but when the assessments came in, the assessments for the recreation, the piece that we're talking about, last year was 125,000, and this year it went up to 1.6 million. And the person who owns that property did appeal it. The appeal was unsuccessful. So it will change. It won't change, obviously, the amount of tax we collect, but it will affect kind of how that pie is sliced.
What is the multiplier on recreation today?
It's 5. And like I said, it's the second highest in BC, and it's even higher than our business, and I'm not quite sure why that was.
Oh, I know exactly
So-
why. It's because the sole parcel was continually under-assessed. And so finally BC assessment's working up. So I think it's fairly easy for us to understand that, clearly we have to go with your recommendation.
Mhm.
So would there be a net gain
So,
or loss?
well, we collect the same amount of tax, but what would happen is, to put it in perspective, last year assessed at 125, the taxes were 1,228. So assuming the mill rates stay the same, the taxes would go up to 16,477,000.
Yeah.
At a 1-to-1 ratio is what we're recommending. The taxes would be 3,267. So they're still increasing
it's
almost
pretty
by
significant,
three.
yeah.
It's significant.
Yeah.
So what would happen then is that, I wouldn't say shortfall, but by rejigging it, a larger amount falls to residential, but it would work out to about $20 a resident.
A larger amount than it would be had that artificially high rate been in place,
yes.
But
And I think you're exactly right. It was artificially high, and I think we never noticed, and it's on me as well, I never really realized the impact because it was just assessed at 125,000.
yeah, nominal number.
And it was, they did look at it a couple of years ago and kept it the same, but this year it went way up to 1.6 million. So it is staff's recommendation that we make the recreation equal the residential and keep that as part of the policy, which I have tentatively written in here in the draft, because this policy becomes part of the bylaw.
And where are the multipliers stated?
They don't actually state them in the bylaw. They'll be part of the tax rate bylaw, which comes to council next meeting, like not tonight's meeting, the meeting
And that
after
includes multipliers and mill rates?
Yes,
Mill
exactly.
rate.
Yeah, we just literally got the final revised rule yesterday, and we couldn't do anything until we had that revised rule.
Okay, well, Fred?
Well, the question, sorry if I'm a little slow to pick up on this.
It is a bit complicated.
I'm just thinking about the one marina that we have, and I see what you're talking about. The net gain to us is negligible, basically, but it's sort of a reshuffling. But does the marina end up having to pay an awful lot more? Is that what you're saying?
Well,
Yeah,
if we
almost
didn't
$2,000
do
more.
anything, they'd have to pay 16,000 versus 1,000 last year. If we make the ratio 1-to-1, then they'll pay 3,300. So it's still going up a lot, but not nearly what it would if we didn't adjust the ratio. But aside from that, I'm sort of trying to present it in terms of principle. I think the ratio should be the same regardless of, I just had to bring to council's attention that there was a bit of a, I wouldn't say financial impact, because we collect exactly the same amount of taxes. We just collect them in a slightly different way. Less from the marina and a little bit more spread out over everybody else in Lions Bay.
Okay. Well, the concern I have is we've got a business operating there that adds value to the community, and if we jack their taxes up to them too much, we could see condos applications going in there instead of a marina.
I don't think anybody here, I was actually wondering, can we have a less than one multiplier? Or is one the minimum?
Oh no, you could. Quite a few municipalities do have them less than one. And I think it's because a lot of people in taxes are going to go up this year because of the assessed value, and their share of the pie may change. Because I think we calculated the average increase was 36%, Haley, and there's quite a few that have gone up, 40, 50%. So like the marina, it's not just the marina's taxes will go up. I guess it's just over doubling, going from 1,200 to 3,200.
There was also a suggestion that it was low before. In fact, because we are talking about an identifiable taxpayer, this is all public. I mean, assessments are public, mill rates are public, so we can't actually speak about individuals.
Right.
It would be interesting to know what their overall, because they have multiple parcels there that they're taxed on. Residential piece, this recreational piece, which I didn't realize, the commercial piece, there's at least 4 parcels down there, right?
There's a residential, a business, and then the recreation nonprofit.
We want our businesses to pay their fair share of resources, give us a piece of the action, because we're providing them a place to make a profit and so on and so forth, but not too much.
Right.
So it'd be useful to get an understanding of what they have been paying, what they should be paying according to sort of best practice, and what they will be paying.
I think how we look at that without specifying one is just looking at the multiples. So if with residential is 1, our business is 3.07. and the recreation nonprofit was 5, which we're recommending you correct in there, and then we've maximized the utilities, it's 20. We don't have a lot of utilities, but that was direction we had got from council previously.
Well, that's just getting back from the government what they take from us. So, but now in terms of the what are business multipliers typically in communities like ours?
I just pulled the non-recreation, but it seems to be similar. It's in almost all cases it's more, and in our case it's 3 times.
I think I can probably have some inkling why it might be slightly lower. I would think it should be around 5 as well. You know, they're using a goodly portion of village infrastructure, the road to get into the business. You know, they have a monopoly on post office service, etc., etc.
The flip side is they provide a service to, a key service to the residents. I mean, we don't have a lot of business here.
For a profit, yeah. I mean, it's a for-profit business. I think we would probably be interested in recommendation on a wholesale review of the multipliers.
Okay.
I don't think there's any argument on the utility one.
The only other one is the business. If
Yeah.
3 is the right multiplier for business. So, I mean, all I can really do, and I can do that for the next meeting.
And it's
is,
not an average of BC. It's communities like ours. The 37th smallest municipality in BC. You know, what are other small municipalities doing for their very few
Yeah.
businesses?
Like I did look at the residential, and Anmore and Belcarra both have it 1-to-1, like we're recommending. Their business is, sorry, just quickly looking here. Actually, the business and residential for Anmore is the same. And so they don't have an increase.
Anmore, well, yeah, Anmore essentially has a general store.
So they've made it 1-to-1.
Yeah.
And Belcarra, sorry, it's not jumping out at me.
Okay, no, you don't have to, not to put you on the
Yeah.
spot.
Poland's got a few businesses.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, just there's 5 pages of things here. What I could do is here's Bowen. Bowen's residential and business are also the same. So actually 3 might be, you
Maybe.
might want to keep it at 3.
What's Vancouver's?
Victoria, sorry, I haven't come to
Yeah,
Vancouver
Victoria's good
yet.
enough.
Oh, sorry, I didn't make this user friendly. So Victoria, I've lost it. What I could do is for the meeting tonight, I could come back with a few, and then because it would be nice if we could get the direction before the next meeting when we do first, second, and third reading. So we'll look at Victoria.
And the whole
Vancouver,
principle of a multiplier is
Canberra,
that
Rhode Island.
businesses having opportunity to make more money pay a little bit more than residences to spread the love a little bit. The profit that they're making on the people who live in the community. So now, again, it's a little difficult to compare year to year, obviously, because it's completely lumpy based on whether we sell $6 million piece of land or not. But this is the way that these things are presented.
Yes.
It's just all mingled in together, and so you can't compare year to year anymore.
And one of the reasons for doing this is your bylaw, and the more detail you provide, if you go over budget or under budget in one area, then you have to do a budget amendment, and there's sort of a reason why we just show the one schedule, the consolidated schedule.
Yeah, but you could surely subtotal sort of what I would call ongoing business in a commercial sense versus extraordinary revenue and expenditure. The numbers would remain the same. It's only a presentation thing, and
Oh, I see.
and,
Well,
and we understand it, but your average Joe looking at this is going to say, what the
This
heck?
revenue display is mandated by the charter. These are
Okay.
the categories we have to show.
And no
So,
subtotaling allowed. Yeah, okay, so that's what I was asking. The number that you're going to spend in CapEx, does that include improvements to the 5153 Brunswick parcel?
5153.
So,
The right away between.
Oh, yes.
so when we sell that land, there's some, yes, we're going to use some of the proceeds to buy 63 Brunswick, but we also are in a position that we have to essentially make the land ready for sale by removing structures, demolishing structures. Is that cost? I think the number was mooted, Peter, 25K?
I don't have it specific. I actually showed, because the capital was such a big number, I have the schedule showing what's in the capital.
Where is that
So on
page?
page 70. And then I also did on page 71 a reminder of what was the details, what was in the 2018 capital. So I did just show the 750 coming out, so I didn't have extra costs. I mean, they'd have to go into the 2017 budget.
Yeah.
The cost would be
Um,
related to,
I mean, some of it we thought would be Public Works time, so that would just be absorbed in the current salary budget.
Yeah, no, I suspect this would be an outside contractor, and it would be the cost of sale. I don't know if there is such an accounting principle.
so I guess it really,
Could
what
be.
we're looking at, what we're actually talking about is the net revenue,
Right.
Yeah.
which we're
And we could
showing
change
as
that. I mean, there'd be no,
3.35, when maybe we should be showing that as
That's the way to do it.
3.3,
Yeah.
because there'll be some expense involved.
Yeah.
And I guess actually, I've thought about it a couple of times. I did not come with a report for council today, but we do need to have a discussion about what what method of sale we will pursue. There's a few options, and I'm not going to get too far into it. I'll just plant the seed that we should be thinking about this, and we'll have that conversation perhaps at the next council meeting. You know, we can request quotes for realtors, use a realtor, we could have an auction, we could, you know, and then with an auction, you've got a bunch of different routes you can take. We'd always have a reserve price, obviously. Anyways, some of those things, if you want to just think about them, and I'll come back with a report on options and recommendation as to how we proceed. Sorry, Pam, I took us off track there a bit. but-
nope, gave me a chance to write a note to myself. So we're going to just about bringing,
Yeah, if we
amending the
did-
agenda tonight to bring the business versus residential rates.
Yeah,
So
and maybe we should adjust this, assuming with the assumption that if we used a realtor, what would that
yes.
cost?
Yes.
Yeah, net proceeds.
Or net proceeds.
Yeah, so this
And
is
legal.
exactly the type of conversation I wanted around this. This is our chance to look at it, and then we'll make these changes, and that's what will come to first and second.
Let's see the
reading
worst
on
case
April
scenario on that
18th.
one, which would be a broker, meaning that they would take the 7%, and then clean up and remediation and all that stuff. So it won't be 3.35, it'll be something significantly less.
Okay,
Here's my main concern, though. We're transferring over 7 million into reserves, and we're still worried about putting 140 in 2019, and 190 in 2020.
no, that's a transfer to reserves.
Yeah. Why are we looking to put in 100 when we just put in 7 million?
Well, we put money in, but remember, a lot of that's a restricted reserve. We'll have to loan the money to ourselves.
Well,
For
some of
for
it is.
projects
Yeah.
of a capital nature, not for operations.
Well, the 4.9, the 6 million sale, that's
Yeah,
unrestricted.
we could.
So I mean, I'm asking what the principle is
Yeah.
here.
I think the principle was, at this point, I wanted to see how it would flow with the 5% tax increase. And the big piece that's missing from this, thank you for reminding me, is our asset management plan, which we're working on this year. So I think we've come a long way for this 5-year plan versus last year. We've slotted in everything from the IMP. And then what we'll be slotting in next year is the state of our assets. And I'm the fire truck, the state of the CLAT building. We actually may need that money, plus just the, sort of the principle of starting to put money aside for reserves, because we can't always rely on grants. And but I could remove it.
Well, I mean,
And
I'm
it-
interested, Ron, this is your
Yeah.
bailiwick more than anyone.
Just the other thing I might add is, because I didn't really know what capital would be for 2019, 2020, and 2021, I kept it kind of light, and the same with the supplementals.
Okay, well, so that may be
So I
overly
think we could easily,
unconservative.
we would probably,
Spend that money.
by the time we've solidified the 2019, 2020, 2021, I think we would find there was no transfer to reserve.
So I
And
mean,
hard
here's
to
where
tell.
I'm coming from. If we're talking about a 5% property tax increase between now and the end of this council's term, or let's do it over the term of this 5-year plan that we're seeing now. No, let's do it over this council's term. What did we do the first year? 18%, right? Or was it 12?
The first year of your term?
Yeah, 12% tax increase.
Yes.
Plus-
12.8.
And
12,
8
8, 5.
and 5 and 5 for next year. That's 30% tax increase. I mean, anybody would look at us and say, wow, no wonder you managed to do such a great job. Raise taxes 30%. So I don't think we can keep going to the well, which is why we need to be very sure that we want to be showing that level of transfers to reserves after we've sold a $6 million piece of land with no restrictions.
I mean, all I would say is it's sort of showing a scenario with certain assumptions. I mean, we will be doing actual budgets in all of those years. It's kind of sort of what I did last year, showing a scenario of how much money we could transfer to reserves at set tax rates. I mean, I can go in and lower them for those years. I mean, the true decision comes when you come to that year and you do your budget and you see what you actually need. Like I say, the big thing is going to be the asset management plan when we find out the true state of our assets and what we have to replace, a lot of which will be without grants. I mean, we know Bayview Road has to be done and we're hoping to maybe get a grant, but if we don't, then we will be looking to draw from reserves and it would pretty much wipe out our reserves to
We
do
have to do it
Bayview
anyway,
Road.
yeah.
So that was sort of the scenario. I mean, it's not, we're not saying we're going to have 5% tax rate over the next 5 years,
No, I
but,
understand that.
but no, your
We're
point's
setting,
well,
we're
your
setting a
point's well
stage
taken.
for 5% tax increase by passing this bylaw. Yeah. What do the rest of us think?
I agree in principle. I think we've got to make it through the property sales to go beyond the 20,000 foot level here. I mean, they really need to occur.
Yes, but then, you know, that then puts us in a quite a different position. Then we're starting to talk about, you know, DCCs and you know, a whole different scenario. So for example,
Other
Bayview Road.
sources of revenue.
Yes, Bayview Road does need replacement, we all know that. But if we do some work at Upper Brunswick, the DCC is replace Bayview Road because it's going to be part of your access or part of your secondary access, whatever. So we do need to also think at 20,000 feet, if,
Yeah.
60,000 feet I think is the right altitude.
But I think that's a good point. That's the scenario. There's so many different scenarios, and
Yeah.
we're still not quite far enough to know. By the time next year we'll have the asset, well, not all of it, but a good chunk of the asset management plan. We'll know more how the land sales are going, and it would become a more informed 5-year plan.
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, a fire truck. I mean, I don't have a fire truck in here, and we know we're going to have to start putting money aside for a fire truck, and that was, you know, sort of what
But we
I
certainly
had in
didn't buy
mind.
our last one. It was funded entirely by the province. So,
No.
No, we had the last one they bought used from New York. The one prior to that, there was a federal grant that subsidized it.
why do we have 2 fire trucks as a matter of interest?
Trucks break down.
Then can we not just go? Sorry, our truck's broken. We're working on it.
No.
Where are the horses stored again?
Well, for example,
The water buckets?
The water buckets?
well, I mean, I suppose I am fine with showing a 5% sort of placeholder increase. I'm also conscious, without doing the math, that that will take us to be the highest taxed municipality in BC. We're currently the 4th highest.
Well, put it into this perspective though, this community is going in through a transition, and I think we're coming out of the end of it a lot better than we were coming into it. What I mean by that is that reserves were really low. We couldn't afford to do boom all. The management, when Ron and I started in this municipality, was very weak, in fact absent in some cases. We're now, over the course of a term and a half, we've been able to see that management is in place, doing a very good job. We understand what it takes to run this place even more, and we're woefully underfunded. We're playing catch up, and now we're finally being able to get things accomplished that we haven't been able to for a long time.
Well, I think we just didn't have the capability to do it before. I mean, you see what's involved in selling a piece of land. And it's fairly complex, highly
I
skilled.
think a piece here too, Carlos, from my perspective, and all respect to staff, but, you know, I think I would be loath to go to another year with any tax increase with the capital expenditures not expensed and done. I mean, we've taxed almost 2 years in a row where we've overtaxed. So
He knows that. And
that is a big deal in this. I mean, the first one was the land master use. Yes.
Yeah.
Used master.
And so, okay, that was the oddity, and, I mean, it's, you know, I mean, why you got elected, amongst your sterling personality, of course.
oh yeah,
And
just take that for granted.
so, but I mean, and that, I mean, you can see, so the tax rates have gone down from the initial, and I think, you know, the question I posed last time we did this was, if we're overtaxing as we have for the previous couple of years, why aren't we going to zero? And Mr. Bain said we needed reserves.
It's going to sell
So,
$7.5
to
million
me-
worth of land.
So to me, I truly see this as a stakeholder piece, but the discussion, if somebody said to me, I'd like to see what our CapEx execution is this year, because it'd be loath to get a point out of increase for me if I didn't see it happen.
I think Nye, who's the guy who's actually at the coalface spending the money, he's well understands that and has solutions to that. So, for example, you're going to be part of the deal is to employ a project manager on the water tank project.
Absolutely, that will be handled by an external party, working on our behalf, top to bottom.
So the money gets spent, and the project gets delivered, and we've got some catch up from 2 years ago.
Show me.
I hear
There.
you. Hey,
So I'm in the
Absolutely.
stakeholder
Yeah.
spot, but I'm in
Yeah.
the show me stage for
yeah,
the next
absolutely.
budget.
I know. Did you hear him?
Absolutely, loud and clear.
Well,
Same as I
think-
heard you the other day.
Well, I mean, relatively speaking, the fire department, they're within $10 of where we project. You guys are in the hopper.
Well, yes, the training facility,
Well,
a year and a half and
let's-
counting.
Let's not go off the grid here. And staff, it depends on, what the project piece is, so a mill can got it. So I think on that, I'm fine with, as with you, I'm fine with the bigger piece here. Although, just to draw attention to my topic, which comes up next, I think 100 grand for Beach Park is late.
I didn't see anything for the beach park in here.
I just put 100,000 in
Oh, did I?
for next year.
It's on
Oh, there,
page
okay,
70.
sorry, I missed that.
Yeah.
So remind me, did we not say we were going to do 28 grand's worth this year? Demolishing the stairs.
Yeah, that's in the budget.
So where is the capex?
Well, that's on page 71, we have the details. So we have the, just a minute, where is it?
Where's the number in this page
Lions Bay
70?
Beach Park, we have
Page
20.
70, look at all those zeros under the 2018, right at the bottom, before you get the total.
No, I'm looking at 2017 this year.
Yeah, I've basically lumped it. I've just said that there's fire 103,000, public works 196. But if you look at the next page, 71, it shows the breakdown of the 4 million in
Okay.
capital.
But so now where are those numbers in this column here? This one?
Well, I just lumped them together. I just
Where?
said, well, I had fire
Oh,
and then public
Oh,
works.
public works. So it's
and
under public
water,
works?
And then
Okay.
yeah,
is that
yes.
so the beach
But-
work that is happening this year is
Yeah.
under public works?
But
So-
it's down here. And
so
that's where you
Pam?
can see that, sorry,
Pam?
one sec.
One
It's
sec.
23,108, and then we have a rebudget as well of Lions of Beach of 13,000. So that's for this year, for the projects identified. And
Okay,
then,
good.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Sorry.
you,
So here is here.
Yes, this is
Thank
just a
you.
breakdown of what's
Okay.
in the numbers the same, the 4 million.
Okay.
okay, that's
So
the
for
number
the
that must-
2018,
okay.
again, this is the next topic up. I think 100 grand is like,
I actually,
For
on
the
this
next year?
report, I mean, it makes sense, I guess, to talk about Lions Bay Beach Park now, but I did have something else I wanted to say about the
Mhm.
5-year plan, but we
Oh,
can.
wait a minute.
No, that makes sense to
what
segue
you
into
mean.
the beach
well, I
park
mean,
now.
it's a stakeholder
there
number
was-
too, that's fine. Well, it's next topic up, we can merge the two if you want, whatever you want to do.
Go ahead. Shoot.
Well, this is a slight change of topic. As I had mentioned, the tax rate bylaw will be coming to the April 18th meeting. And I just wanted to sort of see what council's opinion was on this item I'm going to suggest. And then I could bring a report to the April 18th meeting, or we could just make a recommendation to council. I would like to discuss the fire levy. And as staff, I would recommend removing the fire levy from the property tax notice. I find it somewhat misleading. It's never actually equaled what we actually pay. We've talked about, or what it actually costs. We've talked about what we're doing this year on the financial statements is isolating as a segment what the fire department costs. We've also highlight what it costs every time I do a quarterly review. We do a separate report on the fire department. We don't actually take that money and put it into a separate bank account. I know initially when it was set up, the dollars were set aside to buy a fire truck, but then we used that money to buy a fire truck. I don't know, I just find that I'm not quite sure what the purpose anymore is having the fire levy. Like I said, I think it sends kind of the wrong message that somehow we're taking that money and we're putting it into a silo, and I don't think we have enough money in this village to segregate. We have the general fund, we have our property taxes, it's used for public works, it's used for fire, it's used for bylaws, it's used
So
for
it just
planning.
disappears completely?
And,
Just into the general
well,
rate?
nothing really,
So it's just into the general,
which is what it happens now. That's
Which
what I
is
meant, that's what I meant about it
functionally,
being
that's what
misleading.
happens.
Yeah.
So does the levy raise more or less than the fire budget?
We just, it's usually less, yeah.
Why not make it just raise the fire budget?
Well, we could, but then I'm afraid we may have some pushback and say, no, I don't want to have a 10% increase in my taxation to pay for the fire. Like we'd still be getting the same amount of money, but I think
But
there
it wouldn't
would
be apparent that the general had gone down.
Yeah. And I don't know, I think it's important that we all think of it as a general fund, that we share the money. Like we
Mhm.
don't have enough money to have all these little segments. Water and sewer are separate because they're different funds and we
But
want
they're
them to be.
utility fees.
Yeah,
they're not
exactly,
tax.
exactly.
Brent,
So,
Well, if I
go
could say,
ahead. Sure.
one of the thoughts with the fire levy was that if we were gonna start expanding our boundaries of coverage, say Ocean Point, for example, if they wanted fire coverage and wanted to pay for it, we could just have our fire levy mill rate apply to their property and they would pay us that amount for the service.
Mhm.
Just neat, clean and simple.
Mhm. But I think by knowing exactly what our fire department costs, we'd still be able to do that. We'd be able to say this is how much it would cost if you want our service. I mean, they wouldn't use our levy because they tax separately. Like their levy would be calculated based on the values of their property. So
yeah, the
I
mill rate
think
wouldn't be
that-
the same by
yeah.
any means.
I think the key point is, and I know council has been very clear that they want this, and I think we're going to achieve this year, is find out exactly what the fire department costs to run. We've always talked about the operating costs, but we're going to be putting amortization in that, and it will actually be a segment on the actual audited financial statements. And as I say, we already report every quarter on what the fire department costs. Because I think if we do provide services to Ocean Point, there's a lot of factors we'd have to look at in terms of what we would want to charge them. I mean, we'd probably also want to take the actual cost and have an admin fee in terms of, us invoicing them and. Mhm. Like we couldn't collect part of their taxation. We would have to charge them, invoice them, and then they may choose to raise money in order to pay us through changing their mill rate. But for us, it would just be saying this is how much Ocean Point costs and this is how much you.
Oh, I thought they could put
Yes.
it as a line item, as a pass-through, just like we collect things for TransLink, for
Right,
example. It's a
right,
pass-through for
yeah.
us as well.
No, they could do that, but all we would have to provide them in order to do them is what that cost would be.
Yeah,
And
and
we would
my only
invoice them.
driver for having a detail in the tax bill is, in many cases, that's the only touch that a lot of people have to what's going on in the municipality. So to have one big number and say, this is your tax, pay it.
Mhm.
They don't know where it goes. I'd certainly be willing to try it and see, get rid of that fire levy, because it's meaningless, I agree, it doesn't
Mhm.
have to bear any, there's no bearing on what we actually spend on fire.
Mhm, mhm.
In fact, it gives
Yeah.
people the wrong idea.
Yeah. I mean, I think, people do want to know where their tax dollars go. We do have the budget presentation, which I know not too many people come from, but in the brochure, that's exactly what we try to highlight. We say this is your tax bill, and this is the percent that goes to public works, the percent that goes to fire.
Okay, I tell you what
We
I'm
keep
going
that
to
up a
propose. We don't do it in hard copy anymore. It's on the website, and we track the traffic to see how many people actually click through to the detail.
bit. Okay.
Sean is going to do it.
You can do that. But you know the expression, you can lead a horse to water. but
Well,
you
this is
can't-
the thing. We've got a lot of. Oh, I almost said the wrong thing.
So to recap, Pam, your pitch is what, in 20 words or less?
Oh, I can do it in less. No fire levy.
Just, no, and that's just a cosmetic piece.
It's just a cosmetic. We just
Okay.
basically say this is the taxation, and we don't show the fire levy. And, but not to dismiss the importance of knowing what our fire department costs. I think we want to beef that up and
Thank you.
communicate it. Put it in the mayor's message, do graphs.
The mayor's only been asking
But
for a
not a
balance
fire
sheet.
levy.
It's the same
But we do-
functionality as we
yeah.
can segregate what administration costs, we can segregate
No,
what
exactly,
public works
public
costs. So
works.
it's just
Yeah,
a line
yeah.
of business.
Yeah. Yeah, all joking aside, I think we do send the wrong message. We're making it sound like the fire is a separate piece. And it's important to message, I think, that it's not. It's all part of the general fund. And if they go a bit over budget, then we'll make up the money
Well,
from
it's-
another
it's-
fund, that they don't have to stand
It's
alone.
somewhat of a grandfather kind of issue.
Yeah, that's exactly.
That's
Yeah,
really
that's a
what
nice
it
way
is.
of putting it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
What do you say, Fred?
I'm not adamant one way or the other. Whatever works is the
Yeah.
big thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I know you want to count the beans exactly right. I'm more interested in the PR piece, but in this case, I think it's a good idea to get rid of it because it gives people the wrong idea.
And just to clarify, I don't want to count the beans well, I want to count them exactly right. But it's never going to be exact with the fire department.
I think
because
we know that, but your average citizen doesn't
I'm
know
not a real fan
that.
of cross charges, and because
No,
it's
I
just,
know.
it's a lot of work and it's the same amount of taxation. But in terms of the actual operating costs and what the amortization is, we can very accurately say this is what our fire department costs.
Okay, well, I think take that as a nod. It simplifies the
I
line
also
item.
like the idea that it kind of breaks the greater us and the them.
Yes.
Precisely.
That
That's a
goes
very-
away,
Excellent point.
and it'll take theoretically a generation before it really does, but it's the road to this.
Yeah.
Well, that is, I'm sure, one of the main drivers why it was there in the first place.
And actually, as an added piece, I have had conversations with the fire chief, not so much about removing the fire levy, although I have done that as well. Explained to him exactly what the fire levy was, and I think he understands now that this is the true cost of the fire department, and we will cover that no matter what. Like, I think,
No, not no
and
matter
that gave
what.
him comfort.
No, there'll be a budget.
No, there'll be a
Uh,
budget, but I went, well, we'll cover the budget, and it's not dependent on the fire levy.
No, the fire levy is
No,
irrelevant.
fire
It's the
levy's
tail that wags the
irrelevant.
dog.
And I think he understands that now.
So, are you looking for a motion on this somewhere along the way, or are you
Well, I
just gonna do it?
it'll it
I
was
think
really
it's within
more,
your staff purview, yeah.
right, I can.
Although,
confirm with the
we have
CAO
made
on
it-
I
this, but it
think
was
it's
just-
something that's existed for a while, so I think it would probably be appropriate for
Just to resolve.
the committee to recommend to council that staff bring back a budget which shows
Well, the PR
the
piece would
fire
be
levy not there.
if you papered
not-
it, Peter, then we did our council thing, and you can do a paragraph in the.
Why don't we just have a staff report, a recommendation
Yeah.
on that?
and
Yeah.
you
Or
can-
could we even just bring it up tonight, add it to the agenda and just say, because it's actually not removing it from the budget, it was never in the budget,
No.
really, it's
No.
more,
It's a tax bill
just to
presentation.
say
It's a
that
tax bill
it won't be
presentation.
shown separately on the property
Okay,
tax
yeah,
bill, the
whatever
fire
you-
levy.
whatever you think.
Okay.
Okay, so that's
Just
you
some
guys
wording.
for tonight then? Okay.
Okay,
So now-
yeah, I mean, this is really starting to look pretty understandable. Maybe it's because we're sort of living, eating, sleeping and breathing this stuff, but this 5-year plan is no longer just a 5% uplift it's not a spreadsheet generated, it's now real. Or close enough.
Yes.
This is the IMP.
Yeah, last year, because we didn't have the IMP, I just showed at this tax rate, this is how much would go to reserves to pay for everything from the IMP. I have the IMP in here now, and like I say, the one piece that we still, for next year, we'll hopefully have enough in our asset management that we can start slotting in other assets that have been identified that we may have to replace, like a fire truck. We'll know the status of the Clap building, and we can start doing a longer term plan beyond 5 years of assets we have to replace and how we're going to fund them.
These interest payments are on the assumption we get
All the loans,
all the loans,
Yes.
no, all the grants,
all the grants, and then the
At-
offsetting loans.
At 17%, 33%, some blended average.
Blended. It's basically the ratio that we showed. It's the 9.2
Yeah.
worth of capital per the loan
Yeah.
authorization bylaw and the 3 million. So we know the first amount we got at 17%.
That's pretty
so we were
conservative.
able to offset the percentage we need from others. And this is actually a requirement of the charter as well. I do have to show the actuarial gain on the debt, the principal payments and the interest. Like this format is really dictated by the charter. So I actually calculated the amount we would would get each year
Excuse me.
and ran them through the MFA amortization tables to get the exact amount.
Oh, there's repayment of debt principal. That's 30-year amort, right?
Yes. At the rate they recommended using, which I believe was 3.58%.
Interest is about the same as the capital payment, but that's, any mortgage works like that. Yeah. The expenditure line gives us a good idea of what it costs to run the place. 3.3, 3.2, 3.3, 3.3, 3.4. And really that's interest is the thing that's going up there. Plus I guess one person.
The additional person in 2018 and then just inflationary.
But why does it
assumptions.
actually go down by 100,000 in 2018? What are we actually cutting?
With some of the supplementals, like I say, we had the 60,000 in for the planning, and I think it
It's
reduced
planning
that to
development,
25. And I basically, for the 2018 years, I pull out the supplementals, and then, not all of them, some of them I kept because we knew they were going to go over 2 years, the asset management,
Yeah.
the records management.
It's mainly that planning resource thing.
Mhm.
That's a big drop. It's 80 grand. Okay, So what's the recommendation here? Send this to council for doing what? Or you just,
I
the
guess-
recommendation just to receive the report?
It's to receive the report, I guess, and I
Modify for
will,
the 18th.
I modify as recommended by council, and then it will go to first and second reading on the 18th. The only one we've mentioned was lowering the net proceeds for the Brunswick Beach to take into account modifications to the land and possible expenses of selling.
Yeah. And what do we feel about all the transfers to reserves in light of the fact that we've just transferred 7.5 million? Do we still want to have the placeholder of a 5% year-on-year tax increase, which results in 150, 140, 190, and 260 going to reserves in 3 successive years? Given what Pam said, that's just a placeholder until we know what we're going to spend it on.
We haven't sold the properties yet.
And we haven't even done that yet.
Yeah, I
think-
think that's kind of the driver to the whole gig here.
And also don't not having an asset management plan. To me,
Yeah,
that's
so I,
huge.
you know,
So I'm fine with keeping that as a placeholder. And then you'll take care of the mill rate changes
Yes,
for the recreation property.
yes.
Do you need a resolution on that? I think you do probably.
Were we going to bring that tonight? Just,
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
we'll bring that tonight.
yeah, I think we talked about bringing that
Yeah.
tonight. And
So
then
bring
talking
it
about
to-
the business, I'll give you some information so you can make a decision either to keep the business the same or...
Yeah, I mean, it's a philosophical thing. I mean, my understanding of the reason that other property classes rates are different to residential is that they must pay their way. They're using more resources to the extent that that's what property tax does. It pays for things. They pay school tax as well. Do they pay the same rate for school tax? Businesses?
Yes, well,
For the
Go ahead.
tax requisitions, quite often the ratios are predetermined, we don't get to choose them.
No, I know they're set by the province, but do they pay the same rate as a residential property, or?
Business is high.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
there
actually, I
actually are
have this.
provincial classes that we are mandated to use.
yes,
So when we're collecting money from the GVID, we are given the ratio.
yeah, and I have them here.
We don't get to pick that.
Yeah. Yeah, the GVRD are residential being 1, utilities is 3.5, so ours is higher, and their industry is 3.4.
And is industry
And
what we're
their-
talking about here, or
the business,
is there a
yeah, sorry,
difference between
major
commercial and
industry.
industrial?
And their business is 2.45,
And you see, that's interesting.
and their recreation nonprofit is also 1-to-1 with residential. Like I said, when I looked at it, the only one that really looked off to staff was the recreation, being at 5.
There
And
was
we
a
resolved
historical
that, yeah.
reason for that.
Yeah, but.
That was the solution to a
yeah.
low assessment.
But our ratio of 1 to 3, I mean, it's comparable to what we're mandated to use for the GVRD portion.
Yeah. I mean, you could probably take those as some sort of best practice. At least they probably thought about it. Right?
Mhm. So their industry is a little bit higher and their business is a little bit lower.
Well, because industry is more polluting, it makes noise, it puts out steam, yeah, so they must pay a bit more to be in your community. Yeah. Okay, so let's recommend to council then that this report be received tonight, and we'll have separate resolutions for some of the things that came out of it,
Mhm.
so we don't need to recommend that. And then you will come forward for the 18th, right? With
18th with the tax rate bylaw, without the tax levy, or the fire levy, but guess we'll bring that to tonight, Peter, for a resolution, just saying the fire levy will not be part of we'll work on some wording.
Will not be a line item in the bill, because that's all it is.
Yeah, essentially, yes.
There's no bylaw that requires a fire levy. It just appeared on the tax bill one day.
Oh, a decision was made to do it years ago, but it did,
It is actually on our tax rate bylaw, and it was done by a council recommendation, so I do believe we need to have a
oh yeah, we need a
from
resolution.
council to remove from our tax rate
So we'd have to
bylaw.
either rescind that bylaw or remove
Well, no, we
that.
have a new bylaw every year for the tax rate bylaw,
Oh,
but I think council should do a resolution to not have it on this year's
Yeah,
bylaw.
exactly, so that's what we're planning to do tonight. So resolution to remove the fire levy from the tax rate bylaw, and and a resolution to make the residential and the recreation ratio the same.
Is that what we all have in mind? We can also go lower.
Sorry, I faded out for a minute there.
Okay, so just as a reminder, the sole residential, recreational property that we have on our roll will go from about 1,000 tax to 3,000
To
tax
3.
if we went to a ratio of 1 to 1.
1.4 to 3.
On the other hand,
So it's
that may be
over
because, for the same reason, they get to live with the fat of the land.
It's the sum of the whole parts, though. I mean, we kind of touched on this. You don't have the information for the whole
The whole business.
conglomerate, shall we say.
Because they have multiple.
So, I mean, it's just
Parcels.
I'm only looking at a fifth of the piece. And
We may not be ready to make that decision
So,
until we know what
I-
their overall tax does. Because I think we probably all have in our mind
Yeah, I mean, I do,
what a fair tax
Yeah.
tax burden would be for that business.
I do have the overall tax. I mean, it's going up. The residential is going from 546 to 549. The business portion, 1,150 to 1,500. And then the other smaller recreational part, 963 to 1,300. And then it was just the other
big
recreational
recreation.
piece.
What was
So
the
they're all
first one,
going
the
up.
residential? I don't consider that part of the business, that's a house.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a
just going
house.
up $3.
So we're talking all in 78.
And again, this is
for the
just an
whole thing?
estimate, assuming the mill rate's going to stay the same. I mean, we haven't run through the.
Yeah. So the total tax that the business part would pay, not the residential part on the parcel, under current mill
Yeah.
rate.
So the total is, last year was 1487 for all of it.
The whole business, the
yeah.
business tax for the whole marina was
Everything.
1487.
Everything. And then if the ratio is reset to 1:1, it'll go up to 4,000. So 1,500 to 4,000.
And if
as
the ratio was
opposed
not
to-
reset,
17,200.
Okay.
I mean, I
For
think
revenue-
yeah, because again, we want to look at, we can't look at this specific property. Like, I just think it's reasonable to make the residential equal to the recreation. 1 to 1.
I think this is it's not about individuals, it's not about
No,
a
it's not.
property, this is about a situation here. And I mean, there's a lot of discussion on this, because I believe actually the fair market in every other municipality be closer to your larger number, if not higher.
a $3 million business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I'm one of those parcels over here thinking, why are we so out of sync?
Well, I think the decision though is, again, this just happens to be the example. I had to bring it forward because there would be, we would change how we split the pie. But the argument is, I believe residential and recreation, like the majority of municipalities in BC, should be the same. And this is almost irrelevant. I mean, I had to bring this forward because we changed
Is
how
there
we
a
split
commercial
the pie.
parcel in there? Commercial class?
No.
What the-
There's business.
I thought we did this for like
There's
where
business.
the
I mean,
mechanics
there's-
are, or where he sells his candy bars.
That's, I guess, the business portion.
Yes, the business, 1,100 to 1,500.
Based on the assessment change. Yeah. Yeah. That's a pretty good deal for running a pretty profitable business in Lions Bay. Pretty low taxes in Lions Bay.
Like I say,
Other
pulling away from that, the details of someone specific is just, are you comfortable with residential equaling recreation? That's staff's recommendation, that the two be equal.
Well, I mean, when you look at the absolute numbers, there's no other recreational class in Lions Bay, right?
The only
And-
ones are the ones we own.
Yeah,
So
and we don't,
we don't
and
pay
so
taxes
so we don't tax
ourselves,
ourselves. I
Any
mean, I-
non-profit groups that own property would be taxed at whatever rate you set.
meaning things
We
like
don't.
church camps, not that we have any, but
Yeah,
Yeah, if we had a YWCA owned property, or, church owned property, or what have you, any nonprofit.
what about when the Play School builds their, the Play School Society builds their early years childcare facility? Would that be recreational?
It'd be nonprofit,
That'd
be-
presumably, so same rate,
Same rate?
same class.
Or institutional? That's a different rate again.
and again, we can re-examine these every year.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
We don't have to get
we're
them-
looking at it
yeah,
for
yeah.
this year.
Yeah.
If it's looking like down the road, you may want to lower it. I mean, I think 1 to 1 is fair.
Isn't it normal? bigger picture again here with getting to the small here. I mean, to say that this is anything other than enterprise, however it's parceled, is
Yeah.
wrong. So when you look at, say, that is the enterprise, and you know that Vancouver to Burnaby to everything,
Is around
the,
3.
The commercial business enterprises are paying 3 times the residential rate, which,
But he is paying 3 times for the commercial portion of that parcel.
It's very small.
Our
well,
business,
okay,
our
so,
business ratio is actually higher than most
okay,
of the
so
places.
the.
Yeah, but the business portion is $100,000.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but that's determined by BC assessment,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
did assess it 2 years ago as well, and actually came back lower. They're re-examining this type of recreation in marinas across the board. It wasn't that it was undervalued before, they're looking at it differently now.
Yeah.
Because 2 years ago it was reassessed, and it came back actually, like I say, a bit lower.
So we certainly don't want to go from a tax last year of
$1,500.
to a tax this year of 17,000.
Mm-hmm.
That would be
Yeah.
considered a little unfair, I would think.
Without warning, I think that's a little unfair.
Okay, so I think we probably will go with the recommendation that we
At 1-to-1.
we peg it at 1-to-1 for the recreational piece. In terms of the business piece, I think we'd like to see a report on what are the absolute numbers that people would pay under various multipliers.
Can do that.
Because I think we all have a sense of what the revenue and profit margins are through the very few businesses there are, sitting on the very few.
Well, forgetting all that, revenue, Gregor Roberts doesn't care about profitability and revenue. He's looking at the business enterprise, and that's the tax rate. Have a good day.
Yeah, and if you can't make it work,
Oh, well.
yeah.
I'm not going to do that tonight. I
Okay.
can take the same information I have, the spreadsheet,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
only isolated it
Yeah.
for,
Yeah, I'm not interested in a tax grab here, but on the other hand, I want to be sure people are
which
paying
is how
their
you
fair
compare.
share.
Yeah,
Well, and then it's comparable
say
to
We know.
colleagues are on.
we know we're higher than the rate that
Okay.
we have to use for Metro. It's 2.45 and we're at 3.
Yeah, but in
But
many
we can
cases,
look
I
at
believe
it.
the rate was set because of the assessment, because it was, you were talking about one parcel, 2 parcels maybe.
Pam, if you can do this, don't,
Yeah.
not for hours and hours,
Yeah.
just,
No, just do it quickly for
Yeah.
tonight, and then
Thank
we
you.
can make these decisions, so we
I mean,
can
it
bring
doesn't
forward the
have
tax bylaw. I'd like to get first and second
Well,
reading of the tax
there's only
bylaw
so
at the
many-
next meeting.
It doesn't
Hour
change any
left.
money, it just changes fairness.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not for tonight, just so that you
fine.
can agree before we
Okay.
do the tax rate
Okay,
bylaw for the
okay.
18th.
Okay, so we'll take that, what I just said, as the motion. Can I have a second on that one? And any further discussion? All in favour, opposed, carried. So that will come to the meeting as a recommendation to receive the report without any, well, maybe we can open up for further discussion then if we need to. And with that, I believe that's the end
There
of...
was a
Oh.
piece from Councillor McLaughlin.
Lions Bay Beach washrooms. I'll be very quick on this because 20,000 feet with the pending financial windfall, and as Pam's recognized for our 2018, but because it's in the 5-year plan, something could start in the October-November level, because with the payment delay, it won't get paid until 18. I guess really the issue here is that the beach park's been recognized for a very long time as needing a lot of work, so I think that regardless of what this very small allocation is, the park and Nye's chin will hit the desk because it needs everything from stairs to walls to removal of this, that, upgrades, and the whole 9 yards here. So I don't know what the number is, although I know Nye could come up with the grandfather items that are outstanding of walls and stuff like that. But I'm thinking if we did it all in one shot, it makes a whole lot of sense, and I wouldn't propose to delay this. So really what I'm looking for is a bit of council consensus to allocate the resources to explore the opportunities with that aim of construction, see it finished in the spring, official opening Canada Day for this, like, sake of a better word. At this point, just in my own preconceived notion, I am not thinking of a 3-floor structure with an elevator for impaired, multiple use for receptions and daycare and stuff like that. We're talking one floor, main floor functional. Don't know whether we're going to rejig the existing structure, knock the walls down, do the whole thing, keep the pad I defer to Nye. When I mentioned this to Nye, in a nanosecond, he was giggly before he fell into his normal, I'm too tired to really think too far ahead.
Pessimistic.
Yeah, and he was quite giggly with the thought of actually, not that he offered, but embracing the community and getting their interaction for what at the facilities should go, should stay, be improved, and all the rest of that kind of stuff, and make it a more holistic thing. So, that being said, and I'm sure Peter can machine gun me on this, I'm not looking to start a massive steering committee, but I'm going to use this as a place mark to bring this up maybe at the next council meeting with an idea of saying a notional number. We may as well start from that, because I think if the community thinks they're going to get a $500,000 or $600,000 structure, that's just not going to happen. So I'd look for some guidance from my colleagues here, or whether this is a dead deal. And Peter, thank you for
Sorry,
weighing in.
I'm not your colleague, but
Well,
Yes, you are.
I just wanted to jump in.
collegially.
I think that, you know, as you referenced and as you noted, I think it's important for us to go out to the community and find out what people want. Find out what their ideas are. They're probably going to run the gamut, like you said. It could
You gotta get the data.
But I think that exercise needs to take place. There's a placeholder in here now, but until we actually do that exercise, I think that it would be presumptuous for us to start planning what to do. So we can't really move forward on that front. And I think that process will result in us understanding what that plan and what that project looks like, and then we can start allocating resources and planning for it, and running with it at the start of 2018. And if we have a process like that set up and in mind, then we can get her done for the Canada Day, like you said.
I don't think there's no argument with that. Obviously, we need to go through the motions of the consultation. I think based on the 5, 6, 7, 8 years that we've been talking about this, and 2 in this council officially, I think we already know what the answer is going to be. And it's going to be very similar to what Ron has said. Not the Taj Mahal. The beach is used by a subset of Lions Bay. There's some people who never go to the beach. There's some people who go down there every day from sunrise to sunset. So there's quite a wide range of ownership. Social media, Lions Bay has been discovered by non-taxpayers. So I think a lot of this also hinges around the parking plan as to what level of outsiders use it and how do they help contribute to the cost of maintaining the beach. But I think when push comes to shove, I'm thinking that the number I see there and what you're talking about is probably about right. It's not just the washrooms, it's all the other stuff. It's the retaining wall, it's the new play structure or not new play structure, or lawn, beach level showers. There's a whole laundry list of things that can be done there. It is, I would say, our prime municipal asset, bar none. Biggest, meaning maybe the hall is a bigger one. I don't know. So.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes is the answer. So, are you looking for some sort of resolution to proceed on this basis?
Let's actually, I defer to a bit of guidance from Peter, because I'm kind of spitballing this without trying to. Considering the life has been like a giant snowball with the parking plan, I'm trying not to repeat that mistake.
Well, let me just
interject here.
I mean, yes, you have to be careful what you ask for, because
Yeah.
what happened there was a bunch of vested interests got involved, got themselves selected, and they all spoke to their pet piece.
So to this, I guess, if I heard what Peter said, I think Fred can weigh in a second. We're all yes on this, but the community needs to weigh in. That's the first piece. The finances, we can deal with that, and the historical and what needs to be done, now I can fill that part in. So I think then it becomes down to the amenities and the community weighing in. So Peter, would you suggest that's through a committee work or a survey? Or live on the beach, somebody sits in a booth for 2 hours a day in the summer, or what are you thinking here?
Well, I'm not gonna lay out a consultation plan off the top of my head.
Okay, no.
Come
but-
on.
But, if it's council's will, then staff will come back with a consultation plan so that we can think this through and look into some options and then present something that, you know, we think will make sense and you might want to tweak it or tell us to go back and try again or what have you. So that's how I'd like to approach it.
Okay, and hypothetically, what would be your time that would work for the crew best for a consultation, round one, to hit the table?
We've got a lot of things happening in the next couple of weeks, and so I don't want to rush it and promise something that, you know, we'll come back just for the sake of coming back with something. I'm also gone the last week of April, so if we can aim for the second meeting in May, for coming back to council with a consultation plan.
Well, I think whatever
And-
consultation takes place needs to happen in the late summer, mid to late
So
summer.
even if we,
So I don't
So
think
even
there's
if, yeah.
any time imperative to get this plan. And I suspect the answer, well, certainly I can already tell you the answer that I would like is some sort of survey.
or data taking with
Yeah.
somebody sitting
Yeah,
at
public information
yeah,
gathering.
yeah.
I've learned my lesson on committees, unless the committee's job
Well,
is to go collect.
where I'm going with this is that I really don't want to do a committee here. I mean, I think the financial part, that's a council call.
Yeah.
Getting the feedback on the raw data, okay, well, we don't need to strike a.
The best part of the parking plan was the survey.
So.
280
I
responses.
think on this, here's, with and Fred, you're still getting it to weigh in here. I would, this evening, propose then with nods that I ask, council approve a motion to ask staff to do a plan for the first council meeting in June.
Does that work for you? That should give you some time to think it through.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to be a very sophisticated recommendation. Getting the survey right is going to be
Well,
important.
it's, okay, well, let's get.
As you,
Get the
as
deal.
Professor Nye knows very well, being web adept as he is, getting a survey right is hard.
I think it's a hot topic with our residents for sure. The summer's there. You know, they've got everything from pizza boxes stacked 40 deep beside a full garbage can to no hot water to blah, 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 blah. So certainly there's going to be lots of input. So
Mayor's marking logs on the beach.
that the,
Not anymore.
yeah, I'm sure all the unused fire horses will be used to pull them out of that thing, yeah. Fred, any comments?
No, you said it all.
Good, thank you. So, Peter, if that's.
Well, and I
Nye?
expect, so,
Yes?
Yeah, just one point, permission to have the recorder strike Councillor McLaughlin's categorization of the Public Works Manager as a giggly person.
sorry, that is in the record, and it's going to have
Can't
to stay.
strike the live
Because it
thing
was
out.
said.
Quickly, yeah. Okay.
But your objection is.
Your objection's not.
Okay,
Notice
note
objection.
the objection and the time, please. Okay, so
It was
Peter,
roundly
I'll
rejected.
bring that on for, or,
I like to see.
are you gonna bring it on or not? You'll bring it on tonight?
Sorry, that's not how it works.
Motion?
Yeah, well,
Run for office.
we'll bring it up tonight.
Okay, thank you.
To the agenda.
I'm done.
Don't do that. American. Fine. That's good. Thanks for taking it on as well. It's the petard on which you are going to be hoisted.
We'll see how far this goes.
Okay. Is that adequate for your purposes for now? Thanks. So you'll bring
Thank
that
you,
to the
Peter.
meeting? So anything further? Okay, let's take a motion of adjournment. Second, all in favor, meeting adjourned.